beer.
God.
And they probably realized this from the fact that if they use a different mash paddle, it probably didn't have... You didn't get drunk off it anymore.
Yeah.
You probably didn't get the spirit into you. The inebriator, the god or whatever that gets into you, the god of beer.
Takes you over, yeah.
Whatever, right? So it's like, they probably from simple, like, analysis, without really looking at it like, modern scientifically, which is like, that's like primitive science, really.
Yeah. It's like very phenomenological.
Yeah. So yeah, like they were basically passing down a bacterial brewing culture through mash paddles. Then a guy named Louis Pasteur, because actually there was a German beer law called the Reinheitsgebot that you had to make beer with a certain amount of ingredients. They didn't know that yeast existed. So they were actually just taking the like crud from the bottom of a fermenter after the beer was done and transplanting that into the next one. That's as much as they understood. If they didn't do that, they didn't make the same beer. Yeah. They didn't know why. So this guy named Louis Pasteur, who that's where pasteurization comes from.
Okay.
His name. He was working with a brewery, I think called Carlsberg. I think they still fucking make beer, which is insane.
Wow. And
so they invented a device to be able to prove that there was microbes. And that's how we found out that there was microbes.
Wow.
Like, it wasn't like they were just trying to prove it in beer. We didn't know microbes existed until those
God,
dudes.
So beer fucking the discovery of microbes.
Discovery of microbes.
Oh my God.
It's insane. And who knows, maybe there were some other people working on it, or they had some sort of inkling, but like they actually, like, the strict German brewing law, which was like, you had to follow that. Like, they were just like, whoops, we'll write in yeast too, because that exists. And this came from, not 100% sure on this, but I'd like to look it up, but I think that came from the passing down, because basically what you're doing, when you put microbes in an environment, for good or bad, you're selecting the strongest culture each time, because you're basically going to put them in an environment, they're all going to grow, right? And so there's actually bottom and top fermenting types of yeast. Lager yeast will ferment, they like, well, they don't like, but they produce better temperatures colder, or better flavor at a colder temperature. Ale yeast are top fermenting yeast. So if you had both of those cultures, like before they knew about the different cultures, if you had both of those cultures in a fermentation and you skimmed off the top and put it in another fermentation, you would be like naturally selecting the strongest of the organisms, right?
Okay.
And the strongest of that culture is actually more likely, because of its properties, to be on the top. So this was the process in brewing. So this is what they've been doing. Like, we through using a process continuously over thousands of years and being dedicated to that process, we eventually were able to prove the existence of a whole other world we didn't know was there.
Man, just lots of reasons to drink beer.
I think it's time.
Yeah.
I'll get you a beer, man.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, I got a really interesting one going, so.
Awesome.
You'll have to man the podcast by yourself. You're
All
in
right.
Alaska.
All right, I'll steer the ship. So, for those who...
He's not much of a talker.
Those who can't be here and are just stuck listening, gotta understand that Glen is a goddamn sexy man. You just sit here and his lovely aromas are wafting in your direction, and those piercing sky blue eyes staring into the pit of your soul, and you just want to you can't get your clothes off fast enough. Glen needs to have his way with you, and he needs to have it now. He's gonna come to your house. He's gonna make sure you have a good time. He's a compassionate and thoughtful lover. He's gonna make sure that nothing bad ever happens to you.
You talking about girlfriend?
No, I'm talking all about you. I'm trying to help your PR.
Yeah. It's like, I thought sounded like you were trying to talk to my girlfriend and something.
Yeah, well, if she's
like,
listening.
No, Kim, man, like, seriously, like, Glen's a good guy. Like,
I think she would agree with everything I just said.
hopefully.
I hope.
I'm working on that anyway.
Yeah. So what's this one? This is a different glass.
Yeah, so, this is, well, actually, this is really fitting.
I don't think anyone can hear you over there, though.
Okay. I'm coming.
When you're listening to this and I'm listening to this later.
You've got enough experience to know the range.
Yeah, the range.
It's funny, on another note, we're talking about the beer, but it's like, we're in a recording studio right now.
Yeah, recording on a cell phone.
Yeah. Like, a fully functioning recording studio where, like, fucking 10 albums have been recorded. So
yeah, that's sweet. Well, we should fucking actually rig up some shit sometime, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be down with that.
The only problem is I feel like once I start doing high quality audio, I can't stop. You know, I need to have access to my own shit.
Yeah, well...
Unless that just isn't a thing. I'm just delusional. People won't give a fuck, probably.
Actually, Nick and I were talking about this before, because we were kind of laughing about how the fact that, like, we're going to... Because I, like, knew your platform.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's probably what... I appreciate that side of things, too, because sometimes just keeping it a little bit more simple is... It takes a lot for people to get... I mean, of course, you know, but it takes a lot to get used to the fact there's a fucking microphone in front of your face, and you've got cans on, and...
Yeah.
You know, that's a pretty intimidating experience for some people, right? So everybody's kind of used to that thing.
Yeah, for sure. Even though in this instance it's like this, I always am visualizing a portal into everyone else's potential ears. Yeah. It's just like this window into everyone else who wants to listen. Yeah,
it's cool.
But
anyway, so the point on the quality thing, and like iPhones do a pretty damn good job. Even at shows, man. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's a highly compressed version of audio, like audio file. So if you're like trying to record like a metal show or something like that, and you're too close, obviously it's going to be pretty terrible. But yeah, like even some of Jordan Peterson's stuff, man. And obviously I'm like being picky about it because if anybody else was, you'd see it in the fucking comment section. That's for sure. I think people respect him highly enough that they probably wouldn't even comment on it anyway. But it's just like some of his recordings are pretty terrible, and it's ones he's doing by himself, and it's just like, for such a great speaker, his ideas and his voice deserves nothing but the best recordings, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's just that's the way I look at it, right?
I agree totally with that. But then the other thing that I think about, because I've noticed as well, but it's also that for me it's nice because I kind of run on a perhaps naive assumption that the content is more important than the quality, and I think that with audio even too, like music. If the music's actually great music, then you know it doesn't need to be this perfect, pristine LA studio thing. It's just
well, that's 100% right in some ways, and obviously would be wrong in a different situation. You know.
Yeah, you're right.
If you have the simplicity of the human voice, which that thing's actually designed for.
Yeah.
Well,
more or less.
Not that whole thing, but if you have the simplicity, like, I mean, audio recording for the most part has been designed around the parameters of the human voice. You know, so it's like you're going to do pretty well on most recording equipment, no matter what it is, because like when manufacturers build these things, they're just like, well, not just those things, but when you build most recording equipment, like whether you think you're doing it or not, you're surrounding around the technology of the human voice, like of the human language and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, if that's your parameter, well, you know, and that's the only thing you're trying to record, and it's not like we're trying to speak right now where there's like, and yeah, music's such a crazy thing like that. You know, because we could, if you have 5 people fucking speaking in here right now, and one of them's having a conversation with 2 people, and the other 2 people are having a conversation about themselves, it's like, you could still do it on this. Yeah. You could still, a certain person could listen to it and still pick out what the person is doing, right?
Well, I did one with Jordy at Java Blend there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe how much it just picked up him and me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. I listened to that whole one. Fuck, that was awesome.
Yeah, I want to talk to Jordy again.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know a guy named Bill Stevenson, but it's been falling through. It's partially we're both busy, partially I fucking completely forgot when we were last trying to set it up. And,
oh really? Yeah.
But he's this amazing blues piano player, singer guy, and I want to have him.
I know the name, but probably just from fucking the industry or whatever, right?
Anyway, sorry to interrupt you there, but
oh yeah, no, I'd like just point I was gonna make is just like when you're listening to someone speak, or most of us anyway, I do sometimes get caught up in actually listening to the notes of someone's voice.
Yeah.
And there's actually something really interesting I want to say about that too, but when we're listening to a voice recording, I think for the first couple minutes, it's almost like when you're watching a movie and there's subtitles. For the first few minutes, you're just kind of like, oh, it's subtitles or whatever, right? I don't know, I'm going to have to do that thing, right? And then after a while, it's just like, you almost got the voice in your head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just like, you don't really realize. So like, if you're just listening to a recording of like in a room full of people speaking, like, you're really listening for really focusing on ideas is what's coming across to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, people definitely listen to music like that, and that's obvious by the prevalence of in popular music of like the personality and the voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, you're looking at a much more complex. What's the word? Not perception. Like, it's just like you're looking for more detail, really, when you're recording a band.
Yeah.
When you're recording music, you know what I mean? There's the message, but then there's like a whole emotional element to the relationship between all of the different sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, in a way, we've gotten so complex with music that we can portray an emotion on a recording of a guitar player by adding different reverb to it. You're putting it in a different space. And that's kind of what we do when we listen to music. It's an extremely fucking complex version of it, but we're really putting people in a world when we're writing music. And it's not just by like, welcome to the metal world.
Yeah, it's
like,
more nuanced than that.
Yeah, and it's not just like, here's this idea about this like subsection of human experience.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it is, but, if you look at Bob Dylan, well, yeah, definitely, right? But when you're talking about like a huge orchestra, or even something like Radiohead, it's more so about that element in the space between like the notes, or which is really cool.
Yeah,
that's what this room was built for.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing too because I mean, when you're even listening to a nice recorded voice speaking, or greatly recorded music, it's just hearing the nuances in someone's voice and the way it's resonating in the room and in their throat, and then the same with music. I think that's the real. Because it's such a shame that so much of modern music comes out so compressed and so,
It removing the real element from it.
Yeah, we're taking the life out of it. Because the reason you put all that time and money into having the space to record the music is so that all those textures and nuances can properly be articulated. Yeah. Both by the microphone picking it up and then hopefully by the listener's speaker that they have too.
The desire to have detail, sometimes you have to remove that, right?
And then that's true exactly with people speaking complicated ideas, because those ideas are nuanced and complex and
well, it's why scientific literature is very boring to read for most of us, because it's devoid,
and so much of it requires such a large amount of already knowing what the hell is going on before you can read a certain study or something.
I tried to read some like stuff that he's had published, and I'm just like, love the guy. Obvious one doesn't even need to be said. It's not even relevant. It's like, that has nothing to do with it. I want to read it because I love the guy. Yeah. But I can't. So it's like, why the fuck would I even try? There's literally nothing I can pick out of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Just doesn't make any sense.
Just doesn't make any sense. And